Go ahead and call this meeting of the Pompano Beach City Commission budget hearing, September 20th, 2023, to order. If I could ask everyone to please silence your cell phones or put them on vibrate. That way we don't get disrupted during the meeting with a telephone call. That would be great. In fact, let me check mine just real quick. Thank you. Let's go ahead and call the roll. Kervin?
Commissioner Fournier?
Here.
Commissioner Moss?
Here.
Commissioner Perkins?
Here.
Commissioner Sigerson Eaton?
Here.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Here.
Mayor Harden?
Here. Yes, Commissioner Sigerson Eaton is not with us personally tonight. She's on the telephone, so yeah, we hear her there. So,
I
yeah.
apologize. One moment.
So I'd make a motion to accept her being via telephone.
So moved?
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and move forward the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I will be giving the invocation. Thank you. Please stand. Heavenly Father, please give us the wisdom to consider this budget, do the best we can for the residents of our city and all who visit. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. Mr. Harrison, any changes to our agenda this evening?
No, sir.
Very good. Can I get a motion approving the agenda as printed?
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. That takes us up to our public hearing. Final adoption of the proposed millage rates and proposed budgets of the City of Pompano Beach for fiscal year 2023-2024. First up is considerations. Item 1 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Broward County, Florida, adopting the millages for the 2023 tax roll, levying a tax on all properties, real and personal, within the corporate limits of the City of Pompano Beach, Broward County, Florida, for operation and/or maintenance expenses of the City of Pompano Beach using a general operating millage rate of 5.2705, levying a tax for the payment of principal and interest for the 2018 general obligation bonded indebtedness using a millage rate of 0.3183, levying a tax for the payment of principal and interest for the 2021 general obligation bonded indebtedness using a millage rate of 0.2175, providing that the proposed millage rate, general operating millage at 5.2705, and emergency medical services district millage 0.500 of 5.7705 represents a 10% increase in property taxes when compared to the rolled back millage of 5.2458, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded for consideration. Mr. Harrison, I assume we're going to turn it over to Ms. Diamante. Very good. Ms. Diamante, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioner, Sarita Diamante, Budget Director. This is the final adoption of the General Fund millage rates of 5.2705 as well as the two GO bond debt service rates, Series 2021 and 2018. So general millage rate for debt service millage rate of the 2018 series is 0.2175, and then, no, I'm sorry, I have to go back. 2018, that millage rate is 0.3183, and 2021 series is 0.2175. So the rollback rate of 5.2458, the proposed millage rate represents a 10% increase over the rollback rate, and this increase in the rollback rate is due to the increase in the property valuation. And again, as mentioned, this is a final hearing. The adopted budget books will be published on our city's website 30 days after the adoption.
Very good. Thank you for that update. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public at this time? Please come forward. Just Name and address for the record.
Mike Solly, 621 Northeast 34th Street. Same thing as last week. These appraised increased values are not realistic. We don't have that money. So essentially raising our property taxes by that much it's unsustainable. We can't do it. I don't know where you want us to get this money from. You guys, you got 10 days, come up with a better plan. This doesn't work.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Skaversky, 1630 Southwest Fifth Avenue, Pompano, Florida, Beach, Florida. I'm going to approach this from a different way. If you recall, when we had the pandemic, we had food drives, okay? Originally, we had several in the Northwest area at Beverly Perkins Church. We had about, she could remember maybe better than me, about 15 of us volunteering. 15 of us. We were getting done by 11:30 in the morning, correct? With about 15 of us running our behinds off the whole time. Then the city decides to take over. I have never seen so many people. There was at least 125 to 150 people. We first started off at the racetrack or the casino, then we went over to the mall. What does that tell me? We have way too many employees. We are overflowing with employees. And if we want to start cutting taxes, we could cut the workforce by about 10 or 15%, which would be perfect. And then we won't have to worry about this baloney. We'll save millions and millions just that way. Another thing, we have city projects under $75,000 the city manager makes decisions on. No one sees what he's doing. That needs to be looked at, because I got news for you. 20,000 here, 50,000 there, 69,000 there. We paid that one guy $73,000 to come in and tell us just to build straight up with buildings. $73,000 we paid the man. That was the biggest waste of money you could ever think of. And the reason why he kept it under 75,000 is because it would have been an embarrassment for all of you to vote yes on it. So that needs to be looked at, because God knows how much he's handing out in projects in the millions of dollars. There's so much more I could get into. We could go line by line and start cutting stuff left and right, and not only will our taxes be at least even, we can lower them. We have third world country Miami. I think they either kept the taxes the same or lowered them. They're a third world country, basically. I think Wilton Manors either kept their taxes even or lowered it, and they're supposed to be one of the most liberal cities in the USA. So how can we be raising taxes when supposedly the most liberal area in the country isn't? Think about that. Where does that put you then?
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Hello. We bought our house.
Can I get your name and address for the record?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Sylvia Sauvé. Our address is 3430 Northeast 14 Terrace. We bought our home about 11 years ago under the NSP program, Neighborhood Stabilization Program. I don't know if you still have that program, but that was an amazing program back then. And that was the only possible way that my husband and I could have gotten a home. I don't understand why you even considering right now raising taxes, because that would be basically an impossibility to do for most of us. And I kindly ask you to reconsider that.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker.
Hey, my name is Alexandria Day. I live right over here off of 705 Northeast 5th Avenue. I've been living there since 1984. The property values of that area have expanded so much that I'm noticing new families, new things going on. You've built that new soccer field right down the street from my house. You've got the museum down from my house that nobody can afford to go into because it's going so, I don't know what kind of taxes, you just put a whole new gazebo on that property, you built a new fields there, and I can't get anybody to take all the weeds off the back pole in my backyard, that every time we have a thunderstorm, the pole explodes. And this is part of what's going on here in Pompano. What you want to expand, you want to take money from us, and I can't get you to do simple things in my neighborhood. I'm still trying to get things fixed, but you want to tax me. So now I'm still paying for things that should have been taken care of, but now you want to tax me for more. This is not right for living here since I've been here since 1984. So whatever you're doing, it's not going right. That street, Fifth Avenue, has been redone several times. You finally put speed bumps in. Now, I've been here a long time. It took, and that's a school zone. Those speed bumps should have been put in years ago. But now you want to take care and have taxes. You got all that, what's happened to the Methodist Church. It's gone, they sold the property. Where's the taxes going with that? You're going to put in more apartments? This area is not meant for that. This was meant as a nice community. And now you're bringing in all this other riffraff, even though you have never fixed that Dixie Highway with all the walking traffic that goes on there, the selling walking traffic I'm talking about, people selling themselves out there. And it hasn't been cleaned up either. If you're spending money and taxing me, you haven't done it in almost, what, the 40 years I've been here? So don't tax me now. I'm still here. You guys have not really corrected the problems. You've corrected that Fifth Avenue. You put a line in it. Now you finally put the bumps in it. But you still haven't created the proper living environment in that area. So you're going to tax us? Don't keep taxing me and you're not creating the proper living environment there. You've already done Kester Park. What's that? The kids can't even play in that park anymore? What was that renovation about? I don't know. But that's not what should be going on. Kids used to go there and that was a place to play for anybody in the community. Now you've isolated to when you want to have things going on there. You've got that the soccer field. Where's this money coming from and where's it going? I don't like it coming out of my pocket. That's all I got to say.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Further speakers, please come forward. Just name and address for the record, please.
I'm P.K. McGill. My address is 1131 Southwest 3rd Terrace in Pompano. Question for you. I've noticed all these high-rises going in, all these buildings. Are they paying the taxes that we're paying? I mean, doesn't that help some? Doesn't it make our taxes be better? That we shouldn't have to be upped on our taxes?
Yes, new development does, yeah, they come on the tax rolls as they get CO'd, certificate of occupancy. They do. They go on the tax rolls and pay tax.
Are all of them CO'd yet? The ones that are completed?
It's a rolling process as they get built and developers, I mean, it's when they complete their projects. Some are, some aren't. I know the one over in Old Pompano here is not yet, but the one on Atlantic Boulevard is. It's a mishmash.
Won't that, though, help with a tax?
Sure.
So that maybe we wouldn't have to be taxed more, hopefully?
Well, every year we go through a budget process, which we'll be explaining that, but every year we go through a budget process where the expenditures and the revenues, and we've got to match them up. So yes, definitely new construction does help offset the expenses, but the city is at the mercy of higher expenses like everyone else, like each of us is these days. Gas costs more than it did. Everything costs more.
We know.
Yeah. Yes, to answer your question, new construction definitely helps with the taxes.
Okay, let's try to see if we can get that covered and not us.
Very good, thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening. I am new resident in Pompano Beach. My name is Dorota Kroll. Me and my husband, disabled husband, purchased apartment in Winmore, 4502 Martinique Way, apartment C2.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I hate to interrupt, but did you say in Winmore?
Yeah,
Winmore Village?
yeah.
I believe that's in the city of Coconut Creek. Because, yeah, this,
No, my question is
sure, okay, go ahead.
that, okay, I tell you my story.
Sure.
Because we live with my husband since 1999 in New York. My husband was working for the city in New York, and he's retired, and also I am retired, and we make a decision to move to Florida, and we were looking for the nice city, quiet, and we make decision investment all money from saving by the property. And we are shocked because when we purchased 1 year ago, we pay taxes 2,300, and now we received the new proposition that taxes should be 4,500. That for me is the crazy. I understand that everything is now more expensive, but can you explain me, if my husband received the next year increase the Social Security 3%, why we need pay taxes 10% more, or more, or more? You know, people looking for the, retire and thinking that they can manage and find the places for living, and later we see that we cannot manage, and you push people for foreclosure, and a lot of people can not pay the rent and expenses. Everything is so high. I understand the raise, but why 10%? Why not 5%? Why not 3%? You know? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and I appreciate that. But I believe part of what you're describing may be a function of the Save Our Homes. In Florida, we have the Save Our Homes law, which basically that is there to protect homeowners who have lived here for a long time. Your assessed valuation can only go up a maximum of 3% per year. So if someone had been living in that condominium for 10 years and their taxes were $2,300 per year, when you purchased that property, that then revalued it at a higher rate and would then be taxed at that higher rate going forward. That's something that the state of Florida, it's in Florida law, has nothing to do with the taxes that we are levying here at the local level. I understand your issue there. We actually had a gentleman here last budget hearing who had a similar situation with, I believe it was a similar situation with his parents' house, where they had just moved down from New York. And I feel for your pain. I do not necessarily think that it's just my opinion, but I do not necessarily think the Save Our Homes is the best method going forward, but it is what we have right now. But thank you for being here, regardless. Further public input, please come forward. Just name and address for the record.
Hi, Mercedes Marazzi, 3451 Northeast 14th Terrace. I'm here again. I was here last week. After I commented last week, Mr. Moss decided to say in a very pompous way how out of 100,000 residents of Pompano, only 4 showed up to the meeting. So that must indicate that we're all in support of increased taxes. I just wanted to say one more time so you could hear me. No, we're not. And as you can see, there's more than 4 people here today. We invited them and let them know that that's how you feel about them, that because they can't get out of their job in a timely fashion that is acceptable to you, it must mean that they're in support of increased taxes. Here's a news flash. I got out of FIU at 4 p.m., FIU Doral today, drove in traffic, in rain, okay, trains, planes, automobiles, everything you can think of to stop me from getting here. I got here at 5:30 because I'm highly motivated, but there are some people who don't get out of work till 6 p.m. Some people get out at 5 and work in Boca. That is not an indication that they are in support of what you are suggesting. And for everyone who wasn't here last week, a lot of these people are defending an increase in taxes because they say, well, we have to increase money so we can put it towards these projects. And once we put it towards these projects will bring in further revenue. However, this lady pointed out last week that there's an 18% increase in revenue. Therefore, you're already making more money. Leave us alone. Stop increasing our taxes. We have our eyes on you. We know who is in support of the people and who is not. You're clearly, obviously, not in support of the people. So I just want to say, keep in mind your re-election is coming up, and we all have in mind who is for us and who is against us. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please keep your applause to yourself. I have to ask you so we can keep the meeting moving. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Please come forward. Just name and address for the record. Good evening, Pastor.
Reverend John Mohorn, 2600 Northwest 2nd Street. With highly respect to each and every one of you all, we just getting over COVID, and it was devastating. And to raise taxes at this time would be just as devastating than COVID. I think the timing is not right for us to do it, and I wish you all will consider it before it happens, because people are still struggling, gas prices going up, mortgages going up, and raise taxes at this time, I think would be devastating for the residents of Pompano. So I pray that y'all will consider it before you do it, and may God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record, please, sir.
Matt O'Brien, 1600 Southwest 5th Avenue, Pompano Beach. I'd like to lament the past two commentors. I do want to point out that if Commissioner Moss was interested in what the people think, I would propose you put it to a vote. And I say that because the only reason I know about this meeting is a last-minute call from a neighbor. There's other people coming right now on their way, trying to make it down here, and like it's related before work and everything else. It's not like you guys broadcast this sort of thing to every doorstep to the point where, you know, people would be truly aware of this and upset. You made a good point. The Save Our Homes 2.5% cap for residents. When it's sold, that all changes. With the turns in homes you've had, there's no way you should have any shortage of income. Plus, the improvements that are done also increase your revenues to that extent. And I would just urge you all, if you really want to know what the people think, put it to a vote, or we'll put it to a vote when your terms are up. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please, thank you. Thank you. Further public input, please come forward. Public input. Anybody else? Please come forward. Just name and address for the record, please.
Reverend Tim Griffith, 20871 Northwest 1st Street. To the dais, everybody here, Mr. Mayor. As a community organizer here in the Pompano and the Deerfield area, I speak with residents on a continual basis. I have an opportunity to be at the new Senior Citizen Center, and was talking with a lot of the seniors over there. They're on fixed incomes. Their SSI is not going up. And I just think at this point in time, with so much going on, you got a lot of our college students coming back home, a lot of students, a lot of millennials, Gen Zs, they're moving back in with their parents. I just think, as Pastor Mohorn said, it would be a very inopportune time to do that now. Maybe we can look at phasing something in if that's possible, but I just think if we move forward, it's really, really going to be, won't be good for the community, won't be good for where we are and what's happening in the community at this point. So if you guys could consider doing something a little different, pushing it off, taking a vote, seeing what the people feel. And a lot of people wanted to be here. We talked to a few people that wanted to be here, but circumstance happened. They wasn't able to be here, not because they're not concerned, but different other circumstances happened that couldn't get them here. But the people will be here if you push this off. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward. Just name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jack Lauter. I live at 1411 Northeast 35th Street in Pompano Beach. I've lived in that house for 30 years. I've lived in Pompano since I was in 8th grade. We moved to Pompano. Been here a long time, and it saddens me to see what's going on right now because I'm a youth pastor, and I see a lot of these young kids that have grown up here, and they can't afford to live here now because everything is so high. I've got a friend that's got 2 young kids. Him and his wife both work in really good jobs, make decent money, and yet he has to move back in with his parents now because he can't afford everything that's going on. And it really is just insane to me to think that you guys are going to try and give us more taxes on top of that. And we just can't afford it now. Like the other reverend said about the COVID, just getting over that. People are still struggling, and we don't need to be paying out more money right now. We don't. None of us do. And I agree that we do need to take a vote by the people, not just you guys making that decision on your own. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Further input from the public, please come forward. Once again, just name and address, please.
Good afternoon, good evening. Ernie Sauvé, 3430 Northeast 14th Terrace, Pompano. I really had no intention of standing up this afternoon to say something. I wanted to get a feel for what was going on. My wife has spoken. I'm totally in agreement with what she said. In addition, I think the tax raise is something that everybody from every angle all across the globe is trying to raise prices. My one comment is, please, I understand group dynamics, board of directors. I am a ministry leader myself, have a nonprofit. I understand group dynamics, and sometimes groups tend to be, they see their own purposes, their own desires, their own this and that, and they're in a bubble. And I would challenge you, please consider the possibility of losing touch with the reality of what's really going on in the streets, the homes, the people, and their feelings. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Further input from the public, please come forward.
Or good evening. Sue Cortade, 1521 Southwest 5th Avenue, Pompano Beach. I feel like this, well, first of all, I wasn't aware of this. Maybe I missed the publication and the communication because a raise of this amount is very difficult for residents to able to take in. So I don't know where it was publicized, and so I would say that might have been something to consider. I know that personally, I think right now is not a time to raise prices. I think now is a time to look at your budget and try to figure out if we can do more with less. Because I'm sure you all are feeling the pinch that we're feeling, with the increase in, everything's increasing. So I feel as though I work in a neighboring town, and I think their millage rate is around 3%. And, they do a lot with that. So one of the things that we've done in our town that I work in is we tried to look at the budget items and remove items that aren't necessary. Or, or look at why are we paying, say for advertising? Because nowadays, for example, some of these things you can do online by yourself. So the way I treat my personal budget is I try to cut out all the fat. And I'm not sure, and maybe you are all doing that, but I would say instead of just making a vote to increase, I would say let's try to make decision to try to do less, with less money, do more, if possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Further input from the public? Please come forward. Further input from the public? Seeing none, public input closed. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. We'll move on now to the commission discussion, questions, concerns. I've got a question, Arietta, if you could. I was having a discussion before the meeting even started with a local resident, and she made the comment that, is there a way that we could start these meetings later to allow more people to be here? Is there a reason why we start them at 5:15?
Yes, per state statute, chapter 200, 065 usually, but it's the chapter 200 of state statutes. We have to hold the meetings during the weekdays after 5 o'clock, anytime on Saturday and not on a Sunday. So we can start the meeting later, but not before 5 o'clock. So this is the earliest we can start the meeting, I guess, or 5:01. I have seen other municipalities that hold the meeting at 5:01.
Gotcha. So there's no reason next year we could hold them starting at 6 o'clock.
We can, yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. That's good to know. I didn't realize that. I thought the time was set. Also, I already mentioned about the Save Our Homes impact, and just for everyone's information, the information about this budget hearing and also our prior budget hearing, it was on the trim notification that every homeowner was mailed by Marty Kier's office, our property appraiser, correct?
So the first public budget hearing was part of the trim notice. It was mailed out with the trim notice to every resident in Pompano Beach. For this hearing, as we did for the first hearing, on our side we sent out the press release notifying the residents that these two meetings are occurring. The meetings have been published on our website. They are also published downstairs. The agenda for both meetings is published downstairs at the City Hall. But most importantly, for this particular meeting, for the final hearing, Florida chapter mandates the taxing authority to publish the budget summary ad, 2 ads, the budget summary ad and the proposed tax increase on the general newspaper, like circulation. So that has been advertised, this meeting has advertised on Sun Sentinel on Friday the 15th.
Very good. But our first hearing, which was last week, that actually was published on the trim notice. So
That's correct.
every homeowner in Pompano Beach got that notification.
That's correct, yes.
Very good. So yeah, so folks were notified. I'm sorry if people didn't see it, or maybe they saw it, but it slipped their mind because the trim notices. When were those mailed out?
So the trim notice is mailed out sometime in August, between August 12, I would say, but usually around that time, mid-August, it's been sent out to all the residents in Pompano Beach, all the property owners.
So like a month ago. So I can see why people would have forgotten about it by now. Understood. And also, I think everybody's situation is different. And look, I'm not trying to minimize anything here. I'm not trying to weasel my way out of anything. Don't worry, Mr. Skaversky. I know. No, I'm just kidding. But everybody's situation is different. And I know a 10% increase is a 10% increase any way you look at it, but everybody's situation is different. I looked into one particular resident before this meeting, and I think it's a $2 and some odd cent decline in her actual taxes. So everybody's situation is different. So I understand nobody wants to pay more on their taxes, and I certainly don't either. Nobody sitting up here does. But as I mentioned, prices are higher than they were. They're higher for you. They're higher for the city. Back before I was in government, I always figured, well, yeah, the government, they get special deals on everything. Everything's cheaper for the government because they're the government. But that's not the case. We've got to go to the gas station. We've got to go to Home Depot. Sometimes there are government bid contracts where you can get cars a little cheaper on state contracts, but by and large, for most stuff, the government pays what you pay. And and we're just trying to deliver the services that folks have gotten used to and have asked for and want. And I also mentioned last meeting that all of the improvements that we've been doing as far as through our general obligation bond, which that was voted on by the residents to actually approve the general obligation bond a few years back, and the bond pays for these improvements. They pay for the new parks on north of Fifth Avenue there, the soccer fields. They pay for the new fire station out in southwest Pompano. They pay for the Charlotte Burry Civic Center up in North Pompano. The general obligation bond paid for all these projects. But what it didn't pay for the firefighters to be housed in the new fire station out in Palmyra. It didn't pay for the additional people that we need to take care of the soccer fields over in Old Pompano. It didn't take into consideration the personnel that we need to run the Charlotte Burry Center up in North Pompano. So the GO bond paid for the construction, but we still have to concern ourselves with the operation of those assets. So, and I'm, like I said, I'm not trying to minimize anything. Numbers are numbers, and you can't lie about those. But there's a lot of things that go into this, and I understand that it sounds simple, it sounds easy. Well, you guys can cut 10%, of course you can. Well, you're right, we could, but it's always a choice of where's that 10% going to come from. And our city manager, Mr. Harrison, and his staff, they start this process. Actually, they'll be starting almost as soon as we're finished with this budget. They will begin looking at next year's budget and next year's considerations. And they work long and hard, and each of our departments is challenged with, okay, what do you need and why? It's not just like, well, okay, you need a 10% increase in your budget? Well, sure, you got it. It's like, well, okay, you need a 10% increase in your budget? Why? How do you justify that for delivering the services that you currently deliver or enhanced services for our residents? And that is an arduous process that our staff goes through, and I appreciate all the work they do. I know it is tough, and there are always things also that our departments, I know they would like to have more because they'd like to do more. And sometimes we kick them for not doing more, but there are limits. But anyway, I just wanted to put some of those things out there. So it's commission discussion, questions, concerns. Vice Mayor, then Commissioner Fournier.
Yes, I'm grateful for the people who were here last meeting and came back and brought more people to show what I had brought up last meeting, that our residents are definitely hurting. And this is something we really need to take to heart and figure out where we can cut, where we can push back projects to when. I know there's huge projects that are in development that don't have their COs yet, so they're not online and not yet. They're like 1 year, maybe 2 years out. And until that time, we need to figure out what we can cut, what we can put off to ride out these next few years of uncertainty and, the Fed interest, gas, everything. Those of you who were here last meeting know I held up the meeting a lot trying to give ideas of where we could cut. And I'll bring out, it's a drop in the bucket, I'll bring it out once more to suggest that we cut the $300,000 of charitable giving that we do every year. And hopefully you guys have heard what I'm hearing and cut that. So if I have a second on that, I'll make that motion again.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Motion dies for lack of second.
Okay. And in that case, then I would, since we will be starting budget sessions again immediately, pretty much. I know Arietta, you work really hard on this.
Thank you.
That we look at this for next budget to be able to trim wherever we can and make the difference to get our rates back down and not expand our spending, and at least, take advantage of the fact that the investments we've made are giving returns, and and just really be tight and for the 2025 year, because that's all I can hope to try and do is that we keep looking at this and keep trying to figure out ways to. I know we have, hold on, I want to quote phrasing that we look to, apparently in the budget workshop, we look to maintain and expand service levels, and apparently, and possibly we don't expand service levels. We start looking at, if we're throwing events, what is the turnout? How many people are going? Is it worth that, as when the gentleman said, where you're cutting fat, where you're cutting your budget, just to try and figure out how we can hopefully provide relief in the sooner future. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Commissioner Fournier.
Thank you. I also want to thank everyone for coming out today. I know it's time out of your schedule and it's hard to get here at 5:15. I heard from other residents that they wanted to come, but the time was a little too early, so I agree with the mayor's possible suggestion there that we push this back to a time that's more, that allows more people to make it here. I also heard from many people in the last week who have found their trim notices, looked at it, and shared some concerns. There's one just technical thing I want to point out, so the property tax bill that everyone gets, your trim notice, is a sum of many taxing authorities. So the city of Pompano Beach is just one part of it. So that has your county taxes, which we have no role in. It has your city taxes, which we impact. It has other independent taxing districts, which we don't have a role in, and it has the school board taxes in it. And one of the big drivers this year of the tax increases was the $500,000 that was voted on to pay teachers. So there was a referendum in the last year, and it was passed to increase taxes by $500,000 to go towards teachers. So the biggest thing that you're seeing in your taxes is unfortunately something we as a body don't control. So that's just a point I wanted to bring up, so when you look at it, you see that and you can understand that only so much of your frustration can be put on us. But with that said, I went into this budget session that we had last week and over the summer wanting to not just adjust the revenue line to find more money, but to actually find some real cost reductions and cost opportunities. We tried to find some and received pushback from the public. So I think what we never did after we received pushback from the public about Sand and Spurs was we never really sharpened our pencils to find that other $400,000. I guess I would like to see this commission. It's a small amount, but it's 0.1% of the budget, 0.1%. Try to find that money that we didn't save from Sand and Spurs. I also have ideas. There's an increase in headcount for an overhead position that I still don't believe is well justified from our budget hearing. I'm really cautious about increasing overhead headcount at the city because it's hard to eliminate people at a city, and the fully loaded cost of a person with their pension and their health care benefits is quite high in this type of organization. So I still think that there's another way we can accomplish what this position was intended to do without hiring someone full-time. I also think we have a lot of overhead expenses, like automobile allowances, clothing, publications, all these things that are just kind of, they kind of just, I think, from year to year, just roll over the same amount or maybe some percent increase, but I think there's opportunity there. I actually think if you look at what we're spending relative to what we're budgeting, we're not spending as much as we're budgeting anyway in a lot of these areas. So they seem like overhead opportunities and cost reductions that we could take advantage of. I have concerns about vehicles and how we have huge increases in vehicle maintenance costs this year, huge increases. And not saying we don't have to maintain our vehicles, but it seems like either something's might be able to be done there. And I agree with the vice mayor about the donations. I'm not sure that we would agree on the exact amount, but I agree that we need to strike a balance between no donations and being overly generous with your money. So I would like to make a motion that we put forth a package of cost savings, not finding more money from grants and other things, but actual cost savings, a small package to find us that 400,000 that we weren't able to save from Sand and Spurs, to bring the millage rate to, I think it's 5.25 from 5.27. It's not large, it's a couple dollars, but I think it sets the right trend. So I'd like to make a motion to do that combination of cost savings.
Second.
So the motion is to reduce are you saying reduce the millage from 5.27 to 5.25?
I think that's about 400,000. Arietta would have to give that answer, but I think whatever the 400,000 of costs, to find 400,000 of cost savings between donations, overhead expenses, the event planner position, and some combination of other, auto overhead.
Okay, so
But I also don't want to dictate exactly, because,
so you want $400,000 in savings?
yes, but I want it to be comprised of some combination of these items that are important to the people up here. And Commissioner Perkins, I know you voted no for the budget, so if there's something that's important to you from a cost savings perspective, I'd love to hear it so we could include it in this package.
Well, it's your motion, so is the motion to reduce the millage enough to save $400,000, or
Yes.
is it to cut a position that you're identifying, or what?
The motion is to reduce the millage enough for the 400,000 of cost reductions that come from the items I suggest, that come from a list of items. I can give it again.
So, well, it's a city manager's budget, so
Okay.
if you want to save $400,000,
I think this body should have a say in where that comes from.
well, at this point in time, though, it's a little late in the game. I'll just leave
We're
it.
talking about really small numbers relative to a $400 million budget also. So.
Well, right, that's, it could be a really small dollar amount, but are you looking for a dollar amount, or you think a program should be cut? I mean, because the city manager is the one who sets the organization. We either approve or disapprove of the budget. So if you want to save $400,000, that could be the motion. But if you want to start dictating to the city manager about what is going to be in or out of the budget, I'm not sure if that's really an appropriate discussion for this meeting.
Okay.
So is your motion to save $400,000?
No, my motion is to, I guess I can go through one item at a time and make those motions. So I guess my motion is to eliminate the full-time event planner position that was not well justified at our budget workshop.
Okay. You want to do that just by itself?
And $100,000 of donations.
Okay.
And overhead expenses like automobile allowances, clothing, and publications. So that's the motion, to reduce each of those.
Okay. So take and reduce auto expenses. Okay, so that's a motion.
Mayor?
Let's see if there's a second.
A second.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to eliminate the event planner position, to take $100,000 from the donation category, and then come and find whatever is left to save 400,000. That was the total amount you're looking?
Mm-hmm. As the approximate amount.
400.
Sand and Spurs.
400,000 to made up of from auto expenses.
Auto, clothing, publications. I mean, we're $100,000 under budget for clothing expenses this year, but we budgeted just as much next year. It was the same thing for publications. We budget the same amount every year, and a lot of these, we actually don't seem to spend it. So I think it's just a little bit of tightening our belts on some of these overhead line items.
Okay, I've got Mr. Berman. I've got to defer to legal first. Mr. Berman, then I've got Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to point out that the Commissioner's talking about modifying the budget. We're on a millage matter at this time, and this wouldn't be the appropriate time to be talking about budgetary changes. We're talking about the millage. It's not relevant.
Why were we allowed to talk about donations last week?
Because I didn't stop you. That's why.
So you're stopping me today, but not
I'm telling
Vice
you
Mayor
that
last week?
this is appropriate. This is their discussion on the millage. That's the item before the commission at this time. If there's a motion on the budget should be made during budgetary time. That's my suggestion. The commission can take the advice or not take the advice.
I've got Mr. Harrison, but that was kind of why, you want 400,000? That's just, I mean, that's, rather than talking about the items like that. But it's your motion.
The last time we asked for money at the budget workshop, instead of finding cost savings, we found revenue increases. We found, okay, we'll charge more for the golf course, and that'll bring in more. We'll charge more for this. I want it to come from cost savings.
Okay, now, Mr. Harrison.
So, Mayor, with regard to the itemized list that Commissioner Fournier just suggested, you all in your budget workshop, I can't remember if it was a 4-2 vote or a 3-3 vote with regard to the event coordinator position. So it went nowhere. So then our direction was to essentially keep things the way that they were in the budget, and that's why it's still there. What we're doing here is we're rehashing individual conversations that different members are having and then bringing it back up again that we're not in agreement with the majority of this body. Insofar as the automobile allowances, those are part of the compensation for a number of employees. So we can't just take an arbitrary number and reduce those and still keep things in perspective with the compensation for the individual employees. I've been here almost 10 years now, 9 years, and I've never had this body dictate to me or my predecessor before I was city manager on how to deal with employees and their compensation. If we want to get that granular, then, you know, we're really, in essence, we're violating what the charter meant for you all to follow in terms of the organization of how we operate this city. So those are my comments.
Very good, thank you. Got the Vice Mayor.
Mayor?
And then Vice Mayor first, and Commissioner Eaton.
I think, you know, and I get that this, it's hard. This is definitely the most difficult, but also most important thing we do here. And I don't think it's, at least I'm not trying as much to dictate specific things. It's just trying to throw out ideas and try and figure out where we can find something and try and help with the process. And then as far as when it is or is not appropriate to bring up these things, you know, maybe we just need to have many, many more budget workshops and throughout the year to get there, because, you know, I'm going to bring it up again because it makes my blood boil. You know, last year at the budget workshop, I was told to bring up, and in the last budget, it passed with a 5-1 vote to eliminate 30% of the charitable giving for over the course of 2 years. So 30% one year, 30% another year. It passed with a 5-1 vote. It was then brought back at a completely separate hearing, not budget related, actually in front of when all the charities were in the room to receive their checks, that we were, and also misspoken, that we were cutting all of the money. And then at that point, and it was also 2 weeks before election, and at that point, it was reversed on a motion to reconsider, which I honestly took as a motion to have another discussion about everything. So I think we're going to need more workshops and more clarity at when is it appropriate to bring up this or that. I know with this meeting, it's sort of like the national government. We have to get a budget passed. The ramifications beyond that are much, much worse. But I think this is, from the discussions from the last budget hearing, from this budget hearing, from the workshop, from prior discussions, I think this is at least an opportunity to set the course for the 2025 budget to, you know, that we can work on it. And Yes, again, I can only speak for myself, but for me, it's not about dictating, it's about just bringing ideas, places where maybe we can cut, or I don't mind if it's from revenue. If we're making back money from our investments, I love it, as long as we're not then increasing it on our taxpayers, because that's the idea of investments into the city. So, yeah, that's all I have to say on that, is that I think from listening to the public, listening to what we're hearing from the public, it's important. Other cities are figuring out how to stay lower, and I think we need to get on that train. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Eden?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you fine. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I also want to thank all the folks for coming out. And I want to put forth that I agree with the commission that we do need to start looking at reducing our millage rate so we can lower our taxes. And I think it is important for the public, and perhaps someone can expound upon this, perhaps you, Mayor. We did not raise the rate at which we levy taxes to the residents here in Pompano. Commissioner McGee, I give you credit for saying let's get staff, let's keep it the same, and that was the right thing. And I agree. Let's try to lower it going forward. Absolutely, I think we're going to be in a better financial position as more and more of the new developments come online over the next 1 to 2 years. We've accomplished a lot with our GO bond, which has got our city looking very well. So I think the folks should understand is that we did not raise the rate in which we tax residential properties. We kept it the same as last year. And I wish it was lower, and I do agree, I will say that I agree to an extent that we can reduce the charitable giving. I remember that Vice Mayor McGee, you came up with, you had a report where you had done some research on other cities, and we give a lot more than most cities give. So I'm open to that, and I'm open to especially getting more involved with the budget process through staff, whether it's through workshops or one-on-ones. Yes, this budget, we need to be more involved in the budget process. So that's really my perspective at this point. For folks to know that we did not raise, and we have no control over the school board and other taxing authorities. We have no control over that. So those are my comments right now. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Further, Commissioner Moss.
Well, I'm in agreement with most people that, any way that we can cut the taxes is always a good thing. However, this is not the time or the place to be doing it at the very last moment. We are statutorily obligated to produce this budget within a timeline. Isn't that correct, Mr. City Manager? So, to reinvent this discussion right now, I think it's unfair. It's unfair to the staff who put it together. Next year, if you want to have as many budget meetings as possible, that's fine. That's next year. But right now, we have to pass this budget or we'll be in hot water, and we face the potential of losing income from other sources, which would make things even worse. So, this is something that should have come up earlier, not right now, not right now. So I think we just need to get busy and pass the budget that we have instead of trying to reinvent the wheel at the very last minute. Thanks.
Very good. Further commission discussion? Commissioner Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. I voted no for this budget for the first reading, and there are several reasons why, but the number one reason was the property taxes. I think as a commission, we need to work closely throughout the year with the city manager, because what happens is at the end, when it's budget time, we see everything that the city manager has put in place for us that has transpired throughout the year. And if we meet with the city manager on a regular basis to find out what he's doing, what he's spending, and how it's being spent, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this right now. So I think it's very important for us to meet with the city manager and find out what's going on in-house. We do trust him to run the city, but we need to know how money is being spent. Let's just not give the city manager a blank check to say, okay, you do what you need to do to make this city run. Because at this point, the public and the people that voted for us are looking at us at this point based on what has been put together that we didn't know anything about until budget time comes. So I will, again, vote no on this budget because of the taxes are too high, the money we're spending on consultants, and we keep giving BSO raises, and we're not seeing the performance. So all of that is included in my no. We need to cut back in areas. I don't agree in cutting back on nonprofits because they serve the community. But I do agree that we need to work with the city manager and find out ways that we can cut throughout the year rather than wait for budget time. And we, like Commissioner Moss just said, this is not the time to do it. It should be done throughout the year. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Further commission discussion? All right, then let's go ahead and call the roll on the motion. Is $400,000 savings by eliminating the event coordinator position, reducing the nonprofit funding category by $100,000, and taking the rest from the auto expense?
I mentioned a few overhead line items. If auto is contractually obligated, there's vehicle parts, and publications and clothing.
Vehicle parts, publications, and clothing. That's some mixture of those. So that is the motion. Let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
Yes.
Commissioner Moss?
No.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
No.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
No. Motion fails. Further commission discussion on the item itself. Anyone? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
No.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
No.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Only because we have to do this, yes.
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Thank you.
We have to pass a budget.
Yep. Item number 2 is a resolution.
Resolution adopting the annual budget of estimated expenditures, expenses, and receipts, revenues for the city of Pompano Beach, Broward County, Florida for fiscal year 2023 through 2024, totaling $400,154,323, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Once again, Ms. Diamante.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners. This is the final approval of the overall City of Pompano Beach budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 at about $400 million. This amount excludes the EMS taxing district total budget, and that budget will be adopted in the following meeting. That concludes my comments.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public? Please come forward. Seeing none, public input welcome at this point in time. Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier?
No.
Commissioner Moss?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
No.
Commissioner Segerson-Eaton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
Yes. Item number 3 is a resolution.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan for the City of Pompano Beach for fiscal years 2024 through 2028, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Once again, Ms. Diamante.
Good afternoon, Mayor. This is the final adoption of the 5-year capital improvement plan for the city for fiscal years 2024 through 2028. The plan was presented to various boards for input and adjustments by city staff. We presented the plan to Air Park Advisory Boards, Parks and Recreation Advisory Boards, Golf Advisory Boards, and finally to the PNC Advisory Board. They all unanimously approved the plan as presented by staff. Their recommendations were included in your package during the July budget workshop. During the workshop, the City Commission made a recommendation to postpone the design and construction for Hillsborough Inlet Bridge improvement and Northeast 14th Causeway Bridge. Those changes have been made, have been reflected. We have approximately $33.9 million in capital improvement projects for all funds for fiscal year 2024, and this concludes my comments.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Please come forward. Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns on the capital improvement. Commissioner Moss.
Just to reiterate with the city manager, these are projects that are planned over the next 5 years, not projects that are planned for this year or next year, correct?
The first year, in the FY '24,
Okay.
but then in the ensuing 4 years after that, yes.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Further commission discussion, questions? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes?
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Item number 4 is a second reading of an ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 34, City Policy of the City of Pompano Beach Code of Ordinances by amending Section 34.107, Position Classification Plan, by reclassifying certain positions, by creating new positions, by retitling certain positions, and by retitling and reclassifying certain positions, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Good evening, Mr. Bush.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney Bobby Bush, the Acting Human Resource Director. This is the second reading of an ordinance, and there has been no changes since the last reading. Conclude my report.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes?
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes, so that will, that adjourns that meeting, and now we will call to order as the Pompano Beach City Commission EMS Taxing District, September 20th, 2023. Public hearing, moving straight into considerations. Item 1 is a resolution.
Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Pompano Beach. Oops, sorry, I got it. Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Pompano Beach Emergency Medical Services District, Broward County, Florida, adopting the millage for the 2023 tax roll, levying a tax on all properties, real and personal, within the corporate limits of the Pompano Beach Emergency Medical Services District for operation and/or maintenance expenses of the Pompano Beach Emergency Medical Services District, using a millage of 0.500, providing that the proposed millage rate represents 11.21% increase in property taxes when compared to the rollback rate of 0.4496, providing an effective date.
Move approval.
Seconded.
Moved and second for discussion. Once again, Ms. Diamante.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor. Rita Diamante, Budget Director. This is the final approval of the EMS millage rate, which is 0.5000. The EMS millage rate is capped. The percent increase of 11.21% over the rollback rate of 0.4496 is due to the increase in the taxable value. That concludes my comments.
Very good. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item? Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes. Item number 2 is a resolution.
Resolution adopting the annual budget of estimated expenditures and receipts of the Pompano Beach Emergency Medical Services District, Broward County, Florida, for fiscal year 2023 through 2024, totaling $25,523,255, providing an effective date.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. Once again, Ms. Diamante?
Yes, good evening, Mayor. This is a final approval of the EMS taxing district budget for fiscal year 23-24 at about $25.5 million, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. This is a public hearing. Is there any input from the public on this item?
I know.
Seeing none, public input closed. Commission discussion, questions, concerns? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Commissioner Fournier,
Yes.
Commissioner Moss,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigerson-Eaton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Harden.
Yes, thank you for that. Before we close, I just want to say thank you to all the residents who showed up tonight. Your voices are heard by all of the commission, and I'd also like to say thank you to Mr. Harrison and Ms. Diamante and your entire staff, and of course, Mr. Berman and your staff too, for all of the work that goes into this budget. This is not a one-time deal that suddenly gets sprung on us. As I indicated earlier, now that this budget has been completed, Ms. Diamante, she might take a week break or something before she starts the next one, but it is a year-round job to go through all the nuts and bolts of this city and what it takes to run an organization of this size and deliver the services that we deliver each and every day to the residents, visitors, and businesses here. So it's not taken lightly, so I just want to put that out there, let folks know. It seems like we just meet at these budget hearings and it's boom, it's all done, but it's a long journey to get here, and I just want to say thank you again to staff. Appreciate it, appreciate all the work. That's it. This meeting's adjourned.